Thank you for joining us on another episode of Popcorn for Breakfast with your co-host, Batman.
Hello, hello.
I like the get up, Kirk. Way to be in the holiday spirit.
Thank you. Right before we started, I ran to the dramatic play area of my basement and I grabbed...
Because everybody has one of those, the dramatic play area. Yeah, but go on.
Yes, I grabbed the Batman cowl and cape. I think it collectively cost $4.95, and here I am.
It looks good. I'm not going to lie.
Thank you. It is squeezing the circulation from my face.
So, just point of inquiry real quick. Are we going to be using the Batman voice the whole time? Is that the plan?
No. I'm thinking about after this question and answer, I will stop because my voice is about to give out.
Yeah, yes. And your skull is probably about to start fracturing right at your temples because of that mask being so small.
It's so tight.
But I appreciate the commitment, as always. I mean, you never leave me hanging when it comes to the commitment.
Never.
I like it. All right, well, yeah, get out of your get up there. We've got a fun episode ahead. We've got... Obviously, I'm also wearing Batman stuff, just for the record.
Oh, nice.
Wayne Enterprises, Wayne Industries. So we're not just a bunch of Marvel fanboys, which I think people probably think that's the case, but it's not true. It's not true. We love DC. They just don't love us, and they haven't made us good movies yet, outside of the incredible Dark Knight trilogy. But we're going to be talking about all things DC. This is the whole DC episode. So we'll be talking about Zack Snyder's Justice League. It's been referred to as the Snyder Cut. We'll talk about it. We're going to review it. We're going to let you know if you should make it a part of your plans. And then we're going to end the show with a Schoolyard pick of the DCEU films. So we're going to talk about all of them, and Kirk and I are going to make teams of 5 films. And we're going to essentially, during that process, be sort of ranking them from best to worst by basically who we choose first.
Right.
Spoiler alert, I don't think Suicide Squad's going to be high on the list for either of us.
Actually, that was my number 1, but I guess I'll change that
sorry.
With your judgment.
Apologies. But yeah, so we've got an exciting show. Man, recording live feels like being shot out of a cannon, doesn't it? It's like, it's so different. It's not to break the fourth wall, but like it's so different from our typical podcast format where it's like, we can restart, we can mess up, we can say stupid things. I'll just go in the edit and clean it all up and everything will be fine. Not the case. So be on your best behavior.
Yeah. Well, so Cameron does all of the post-production, and we don't often take many extra takes. Like, it's very fluid. That's why we thought the move to live would be fine. So, Cam, are there lots of things you take out, like of the silly things I say?
No, there's not.
Just checking.
But last week, I was able to pat myself on the back a little bit. I was able to successfully cut around all of the times that we had Wi-Fi issues. Perfect. So like things were cutting out. So if you just listen to the podcast, you'll have no idea that ever happened. If you were watching the live stream, you're painfully aware, as I was, that it was happening. And Kirk and I were just watching in horror as it did. But to those who just listen to the podcast, it's like, it never happened. It's just like, boop. Didn't happen, and that way, if it happens again this time, I can just
blip it away.
Clean it up.
Blip it
that's
away.
Right. So that's a good point. I feel like last episode, because it was our first stream, there was a lot going on. I didn't explain things super well. So for those of you who are streaming and those of you who are listening to the podcast version of this, here's how this is going to go. What we're recording right now is going to be recorded in one big chunk, all in the stream. It's going to include What's Poppin', which is our news segment, the review, and then our Schoolyard pick. But when it goes to podcast format, you will get the What's Poppin' segment on Wednesday and then the review and Schoolyard pick on Friday. So that's why if you're just listening to the Friday episode, you're like, what? They're like teasing things that happened earlier in the week. It's because it's all being recorded at once and then cut up. So if that was confusing for anyone, I apologize, but hopefully that clears the air.
Well said.
All right. But we've got not too much news because, again, we only had a 5-day layoff between when we did our last recording to now. But we do have a huge movie in Zack Snyder's Justice League. If you've been on social media, everybody's talking about it. And also, as a reminder, right after this, we're going to record spilled popcorn. Sorry, forgot the name of our own show there. Spilled popcorn for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which just started this week, which is a Marvel show. So we've got lots of fun stuff, and then we've got our DCEU Schoolyard pick. So it's going to be a good time.
DC centric.
That's right. If we don't have anything else to talk about, let's jump into our what's popping. I've got a little bit of surprise at the end here for you because there's not that much news. So we got to find something to fill the space. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But there is a little bit of news. This first story, Kirk, I don't think you're going to care too much about, but it's something I care deeply about, which is we are going into the Avatar verse. Avatar: The Last Airbender, not the Jimbo Cameron Avatar movies made by Fox that is now Disney, but Avatar: The Last Airbender. This week, and actually back when they did the Paramount Investor Day, because everybody's like, well, we want to do our own cool Investor Day now that Disney had so much success with theirs. Yes. I think they've always done this, but they're like made it public and like made it this thing where everybody can watch virtually. Anyway, they like kind of low-key announced that there was going to be this Avatar Studios thing, which I was like, you have my attention, about the only thing that got my attention at the Paramount Investor Day. But the president of Nickelodeon went on an interview with Deadline and basically said that will include at minimum at least a few series and some movies, spin-offs of the Avatar: The Last Airbender show. So if you're not into Avatar: The Last Airbender and you've seen people, I think like when it got added to Netflix, Kirk, were you seeing this all over your timeline? Like people talking about Avatar?
Yeah. I am not, I'm not locked in on Avatar. Not because I don't like it, just haven't ventured that way yet. But man, I tell you, my timeline was covered.
Yeah.
In
and
Avatar:
it was like,
Last
that
Airbender.
was like right around the same time that the top 10 came out on Netflix. And
yes.
That was coincidentally when I learned that I was not the only person in the world who likes Avatar: The Last Airbender, because everybody was watching that show. And so there's that show, which is, again, it's on Netflix, though I wonder how much longer now that they're doing Paramount Plus and all of that. So that might be going. And then they had The Legend of Korra, which like missed me because I had like aged out of Avatar: The Last Airbender by that time, but that is like the sequel to Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's about a different Avatar. And so then there's like this huge universe with like hundreds and hundreds of years of different avatars. So it's really a great candidate for a universe, a multiverse, whatever you want to call it. So there's going to be lots of Avatar content coming. So if you haven't checked out Avatar, I mean, it is like a kid's show, but it's really good. It's like a really good cartoon show. And I think it's good from my perspective to get more people interested in like animated properties. Like I think adults can enjoy animated things. I mean, we reviewed Raya and the Last Dragon last week. Like that's a movie that's geared toward kids, but you can still enjoy it. So I think it's good to mix up the content flow a little bit, and Avatar is a great option if you're looking to add some animation into your life.
Yeah, I maybe I'll get into it. I don't know. I can't promise anything at this point. But what I can say is that I'm excited for you, Cam, because you've been talking about Avatar for a long time. And so I know that when this hits, you're going to take a week off from work.
I'll be all over it.
And you're just going to dive right in. There probably needs to be a special that you take on with that too. So that'll be fun.
Maybe I'll do my own little series.
Yes.
Me and all the Avatar stands out there. It'll just be called like Appa's Corner or something like that. Just something,
there you go.
Something fun. Yeah, it'll be a good time. I'm excited for it. Speaking of streaming services and different things like that, if you don't have Peacock, which very few people do, their subscription numbers are not strong so far. They have, in honor of The Office's anniversary, which I think it's like, I don't know. I don't want to get it wrong. I almost said 19 years. That can't possibly be true, is it?
The Office?
Yeah. When did
like
that start?
in the American The Office?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah, let's get this right. Because that's the number that's coming to my head, but maybe that's because it started on March 19th. But basically, they have made The Office free to everybody until this Thursday, March 25th. So it started on Thursday the 18th. I had no idea until I saw an article about it the next day. And then what did you find out?
16 years. You were very close. 16
Ooh, I was
years.
Close. Man,
that's insane.
That's impossible.
It's when it started, 2005, right? So that's wild.
That is wild. But basically, everybody whined and complained whenever The Office moved off of Netflix, obviously, because like people like fell asleep with that show on. It had transcended just like regular television shows. Like it was just like everybody wanted it. So now Peacock, in an attempt to get some more subscribers, they are giving people a taste of The Office for free for a week. You don't have to have a Peacock premium subscription or anything like that. So is it going to make you subscribe to Peacock Premium, Kirk?
Gotta say, absolutely not. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, you have like this weird personal vendetta against Peacock that I kind of want to like dive deeper into. Like, what is it? Is it the name? Is it the fact? Is it their catalog that you hate? Like, what is it?
Yes, Dr. Cam, I would like to explain why. I don't know. It's a dumb name. I know the Peacock is theirs. Bad. It's just there really should be a better reason to it for why I have such disdain, but I don't. I think it was just, there were already like 6 big hitters, and then here comes Peacock strutting in like, oh, I'm going to take a piece of the pie. Like, no, you didn't have to do that. You were making plenty of money with all your properties in Netflix's pocket and Amazon and Hulu. Just charge more for them. Don't get it on us that we have to now get another streaming network, streaming platform, because as a cord cutter, I'm pretty much not a cord cutter anymore because of this. So Peacock, I hate you with all my heart.
Yeah, Peacock is evil. I think for some reason, like you said, like they were sort of the first one outside of the big, outside of the Hulu's, Netflix, Amazon Prime, like that had been there for a while. They were sort of the first one to really get in on it, and it was like, man, don't start this because then it's going to be a waterfall. And of course it was. I mean, obviously you have Paramount Plus now, which just came out a couple of weeks ago. You've got Discovery Plus, which I'm like, what? Listen here.
So that's what's funny. So Peacock Plus, I hate them. Paramount Plus doesn't bother me. Discovery Plus is funny because they house the entire 90 Day Fiance shows.
No. Yeah,
and I'm 90
TLC, right?
Yes, and I'm 99% sure they call it on their advertising commercial the 90 Day Fiance universe. Maybe it's Mandela effect.
Multiverse.
The multiverse
into the 90 Day Fiance verse,
because they've got before the 90 days, they've got 90 Day Fiance, and they've got like a segment. It's like happily ever after 90 Day Fiance.
Oh my goodness.
Dude, if you haven't seen at least one episode of that show, you are missing out. It's so good.
Kirk, I'm not that guy. And this isn't because I'm a TV snob. I'm genuinely not the trash TV guy. I just can't. Like, I can't do The Bachelor. I can't, and I realize this makes me super relatable, so I apologize for that. I can't do The Bachelor. I can't do like Teen Mom or any of those things that people watch. I cannot do it.
Yeah.
It's terrible. The closest I get is Survivor, which I will die on the hill for Survivor every day. I think it's the greatest thing in existence. But I can't do 90 Day Fiance. But that's how they reel people in. They get that one anchor show that people are like, oh man, I gotta have it. So then you either have to have Discovery Plus, which is $4.99 a month, or you have to have like a YouTube TV, Sling TV type thing in order to get that, which I mean is effectively the same price and then some. So there are issues with it. But yeah, I'm like it's getting tiring. We have a comment about when will the Plus thing die? I thought Google Plus would have killed it. Yeah, when will the Plus thing die? Because it's not even derivative at this point. It's just like a joke. Like the fact that we have, so I guess, yeah, Google Plus did it way back in the day, but then we got Disney Plus. Well, Hulu Plus was sort of the first one on the block with that. We got Hulu Plus, then ESPN Plus, then Disney Plus. Shout out to HBO for going with Max. That's at least a little bit different. Shout out to Amazon for going with Prime Video, which was a little bit different. Yeah. But now you've got Paramount Plus, Discovery Plus. It's insanity. Yeah.
I guess this is bad timing. We're actually rebranding to Popcorn for Breakfast Plus, but I mean, I think it's still a good move, well, I mean, we'll go back to the drawing board on that. But yeah, there are so many pluses around here. I'm waiting for the next one to say just minus or just what their name is, right? Like Prime Video is just Prime
sometimes
Video.
My son will make up. So my son, I don't know if this reflects poorly on me as a parent, but he can tell you if he wants to watch a show, he can tell you which network it's on. He can tell you, he's like, oh, let's watch Gigantosaurus on Disney Plus. Like he will say it like that. Or like, let's watch Snoopy on Apple TV Plus. Oh, I forgot about Apple TV Plus. There's another one.
Yeah.
But whenever he's doing make-believe and he makes up shows, he'll call his networks like Disney Plus Plus. So he'll add a plus. That's what I think the next step is. The next streaming service that comes out needs to be Plus Plus because that automatically just skyrockets them to the top of the leaderboard.
Yes, I love it.
Or A plus, you know, like the grade.
Ooh, I like it.
See, we should be marketing executives.
I mean, all of these networks should just hire us for all the time. Just put us on retainer, and whenever they need ideas, we're just going to sit in a room and talk like this.
That's all we do. We just generate ideas. That's all.
That's right. We're just a think tank. That's it. That's all we do. So come on, guys. We're out here. We're out here. And if you have a small business or a large business, we're looking for sponsors. Thanks, guys.
Wow. Always with the shameless plug. So here was my surprise thing, because we actually just very gracefully segued into it because we don't have that much news to talk about. I want to talk about the networks because the landscape has seemingly changed a ton, even since the beginning of 2020, which I feel like was the last time that we really talked about it. But now this is a graphic that we posted on social the other day. In addition to Apple TV Plus, which was rolled out last year, we also now have Peacock and Paramount Plus entering the fold. Discovery Plus is not pictured here, but you're basically at a landscape right now where outside of a television subscription or traditional cable subscription, and when I say television subscription, that could be YouTube TV, Sling TV, Hulu Live, whatever. You've got these primary players in streaming: Disney Plus, Netflix, Peacock, Hulu, HBO Max, Apple TV Plus, Prime Video, Paramount Plus, and Discovery Plus. And then ESPN Plus, that's sort of different because it's not really competing for the same space. It's competing for a different space. Mm-hmm. All of these things range somewhere in the price of $4.99 a month to $14.99 a month to, if you have the highest tier of Netflix, I think it's, what is it, Kirk? $18.99 a month now, or $17.99? I think so.
$17 or $18.99. Yep.
So that's the money that we're talking about. So if you subscribe to all of these, like an idiot, like me, which I do, Kirk, I have to confess, I'm coming clean right now in front of all of you guys. I have all of the subscription services except for Discovery Plus, and here is why I want to defend myself briefly.
Wow.
Well,
the floor is yours.
And here's why I want to defend myself as we get into this, because Paramount Plus has the most repugnant catalog of all of these streaming services. And that is saying something, because Peacock and Apple TV Plus are both an embarrassment to streaming services in terms of their catalog, but Paramount Plus takes the cake. It is terrible. And yet I am a subscriber. And the reason I'm a subscriber is for English Premier League soccer and Champions League, because they put all that stuff on there, which is just as sinister as it gets. Anyway.
Well, I believe you should get Discovery Plus and collect it just like an Infinity Stone. Maybe it's not the most powerful one, but one day you will want to turn on 90 Day Fiance. You're going to be having a bad day and you're just going to need to turn your brain off, and you're going to get
I'll just hate watch. What are those twins that do the construction, like the makeover shows?
Yeah, those guys? Property Brothers.
Yeah, Property Brothers. Yeah, I'll just hate watch the Property Brothers and just scream obscenities at my screen while eating ice cream. I feel like that could be cathartic in a lot of ways.
Yeah, or the flip or flop, the divorced couple, right? You could say, yell at Tarek and the wife, like, you should have stayed together.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. I am still mad about that.
You got options. Of who you're going to hate watch.
So here's what I want to do, because I think everybody is asking the question of which of these should I subscribe to and which shouldn't I subscribe to? What is worth it? I have tried them all. You've probably tried the vast majority of them, save maybe Paramount Plus. And so we're going to go one by one, and we're going to talk about it and say if it's something you would subscribe to or something you wouldn't subscribe to. Sound good?
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, Disney Plus is number one on the list. I think their current price is $6.99. Did they go up to $6.99 now?
I don't know.
They did a $1 hike at the beginning of the year. So let me check this. Yeah, $6.99 a month. They were $5.99 when they launched. Are you paying? Would you pay for Disney Plus at $6.99? Yes or no?
That's a yes for me, Cam.
Yeah, it's a yes for me. And I think if you have kids, it's an obvious yes. Because of Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. I mean, that's just like, that's a no-brainer. Plus, all the Disney movies are on there. And I would say that now the original content is coming along with the Star Wars shows and the Marvel shows, which that'll be a way different conversation at the end of this year even, because we've got all this Marvel content coming out, all these new Star Wars shows coming out. So I think it's going to be, people slam Disney Plus for their lack of original, like, exclusive to streaming content or whatever. But I think that gap is going to be pretty close to closed by the end of 2021.
Absolutely.
All right, Netflix, the granddaddy of them all. Kirk, this is bad. Don't tell Netflix, but we actually share Netflix. Don't anybody tell them if they're watching, because I read an article that they're about to start cracking down on that stuff.
They are.
Which makes sense. They could probably like triple their revenue if they got either that or they would force people to drop it. But right now, the highest thing of Netflix, which is like you can stream in like 3 different places at the same time, plus you get 4K, plus you get to download stuff, is either $17 or $18.99 a month, which is steep. That puts it at the tippy top of the price range for all of these.
But if you share between family members, hypothetically, it's much more reasonably cost.
It is. It's like $9 a month, and then it's like no problem. What's your take on Netflix? Is Netflix still king, Kirk? Is it still the king of the castle?
Absolutely. I look at all of these streaming services, and no one has done what Netflix has done because they were the first. They were the pioneer. You know, it's not like Quibi, right? Let's say Quibi, and let's say short form content was a thing. It's not. And let's say Quibi was first to break in, and it was huge. Quibi would be number one. Netflix was number one out of all of these. They had their own separate service where they were mailing DVDs through the USPS, and they've adopted it into pocket camera television in your.
I was like, where's he going with this? Where's he going? He's gone somewhere I can't follow.
Sometimes I start a sentence and I don't know where I'm going. I call it. Yeah. So I think Netflix is always king. I think that they had a little bit of a lull, which we talked about it at the beginning of our podcastery when we started a year and a half to 2 years ago. But they really came back from it just really simply. And I'm excited to see them just continue to be king.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what sets them apart still to this day, nobody has gotten a chance to touch them. And maybe it's just because they were the first one on the block, is the breadth of their content. Yes. They have every genre, every format. They have documentaries. They have 30 minutes. They have an hour. They have limited series, 10 season series. They have everything. Good movies, original movies. I mean, it's just like, it's insane. So many of these services are so top heavy. You know, look at Peacock, which we'll talk about next, but you've got The Office, 30 Rock, you know, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, or Parks and Rec, you know. Beyond that, it's ugly. It's big time ugly. So you have to have the depth and the breadth of content.
Yes, they win.
Yeah, so let's talk about Peacock. I think Peacock's around $5 a month. You do get some live sports there in terms of soccer, which, like I said, is the reason that I subscribe to it. And I don't know if you can watch NBC live on it. But I think even so, the version that I have, which is like $5 or $6 a month, has commercials on it too. So it's like Hulu in that sense, to where even if you pay for Peacock Premium, there's like another tier that's commercial free. But if you pay for just the base, you still get commercials. So that's an important factor as well. What's your take on Peacock?
Well, I just want to say that just to reiterate how stupid their name is, I am pulling up. I don't know their catalog. I'll just be perfectly honest with you. So I typed in Peacock on my iPad here, and I said Peacock catalog, right? And I got 30 images of peacocks of different kinds of fabrics and taxidermied peacocks. It was the craziest thing, but I don't know. Like, you know, they probably have some good stuff that hits now and then that probably stays for like a month and then drops. But like, listen to some of these titles in the movies: Age of Dinosaurs, Air collision, airplane versus volcano.
Airplane versus volcano.
Don't act like you're going to watch that. Don't you dare. Don't you dare.
Do they have Money Plane? Because I will watch that.
I've not seen Money Plane on here. I mean, there's just so many crazy things in here that Yumi and Dupree, terrible titles all across the board. There's no way that I'm ever watching this or paying for it.
Yeah, it's a stinker. It's a stinker deluxe, and their original, like their exclusive to Peacock stuff that is like shows that were created for Peacock is limited to like Saved by the Bell and a few other things, which is like, ouch. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. I don't think I would recommend anybody to pay for it unless you're a huge English Premier League soccer fan, in which case it's an absolute necessity.
Yes.
Unfortunately. And I hate myself every day because of it. Okay. Hulu. Hulu's been around for quite a while, and they've fluctuated through a few different packages, but they're mostly the same as they were. You know, they've got a commercial tier, they've got a non-commercial tier, and right now I have the commercial one because I'm a person who's not bothered by it personally. But what's your take on Hulu? How and their catalog? Are you still a subscriber?
I am, dude. Hulu's killing it. You know, this is how I got to watch all the episodes of ER back to back
Nice.
every single season. They have some great original films that hit there first. So like Ben is Back with Julia Roberts. There's a number of other ones. That's the one that sticks to my mind.
Happiest Season was on there. Palm Springs was on there.
Springs. I'm watching Wonder Years back on Hulu, and they have the TV option. They have a direct line with sports. That's huge with a lot of what they do. And like they have small businesses can advertise there
that's cool.
for their commercials. Like that's so cool. So like their model, I don't know, it doesn't bother me. There's something about Hulu that just makes you feel good inside. Maybe it's the green. I don't know. It makes me feel warm.
Green does have that effect on people. I did a marketing research thing one time that was like, people associate green with like safety and progress and lots of things like that.
They nailed it.
I like Hulu. I'm keeping Hulu for sure. HBO Max. And this one, I'll kick this one off because I actually think, dude, HBO Max is kind of killing it. Like if you haven't dipped your toes into this water, let me tell you, it's warm. It feels good. It is like their catalog is deep. Like they came out guns blazing with their catalog. So many of these people, like these streaming services come out and their catalog sucks at the beginning and it takes time to ramp up. They came and just dropped every Warner Brothers movie. They have the Criterion Collection. They have all the Studio Ghibli stuff. They have Turner Classic Movies, like all the DC stuff, which is like, tons. And they have all the HBO shows, which are excellent. The full lineup, past and present. And this whole new thing that they're doing with like release in theaters, but also release on HBO Max, I've already benefited from that like 3 or 4 times. So, dude, this is like, I put this right behind Netflix. I really think it's that good. And the price point is a premium price point. It's at $15 a month. They're getting ready this summer. They'll be rolling out a commercial supported version of it that I think will be cheaper. And then they'll have the ad-free version. But man, I'm really loving this platform. They did a horrible job rolling it out and advertising it. Just a total masterclass in stupidity by AT&T and everybody who is running that. But it is a good platform. It works well. It's got good content. I'm like all about it.
I'm glad you kicked it off. There's nothing more to say. Their catalog is unmatchable. You know, Apple TV Plus, which we're going to talk about in just a moment, they came out with no catalog. They had like 6 things to go with. And I'm still waiting for Apple to buy one of these 9 boxes.
I know, right?
Because that's the only way they can succeed. You know, they have a couple of wins here and there, but ultimately they need a strong catalog, which Netflix already had coming into the game. HBO Max already had coming into the game. Disney Plus, Hulu, Prime Video just has access to everything, and they just cycle it out. Apple TV Plus has got to get it together, but HBO Max, it's strong. It's strong. I really like their software. They've grown a lot in a very short time, and it's here to stay.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I've said it on the podcast once before, but Apple TV Plus, like if they're looking for acquisition partners, which I think they pretty much always are because they always have a surplus of cash, I feel like Warner Media HBO is the place to go. I think it just aligns really well with their corporate synergies in terms of like premium content, you know, like sort of more geared towards adults, associated with being cool. You know, HBO is almost like has this status thing about it, which is the same thing that Apple has. I just feel like that would line up really well. And they already have the studios in place to create these great television series, which is what Apple TV Plus is struggling so hard to do. And they just keep throwing money at it, thinking it's going to get better, and it just doesn't. It just doesn't. So that's a good segue into Apple TV Plus. My take on that platform is I have not paid for it for one day. They have given it to me for free. They said I was going to have it for a year, and then they said, "Oh, your year is up. Now you get it for 4 more months." And then they said, "Oh, your 4 months is almost over. Now you get it till July." I'm just like, will I ever have to pay for it? And if I do, the answer will be a hard no for me. I'm not doing it.
I agree. I'm in the exact same boat. I will say that the most recent, big premiere on Apple TV Plus was Cherry with Tom Holland, directed by the Russo brothers.
Yeah.
Don't know if we'll review that, so I can't tell you my thoughts just yet. But maybe I'm giving it away right now. You should go watch it. If you don't have Apple TV Plus, get a free trial. And if you do need to pay for $4.99 just to watch that movie, go for it. But otherwise, it's just not worth it. It really isn't. Until they buy someone else, it ain't going to happen for me.
Yeah, Ted Lasso is a winner in my book, and The Banker was pretty good, but not good enough to pay for a monthly subscription. Defending Jacob was okay, but not good enough to pay for a monthly subscription. So you gotta show me something, Apple, or else you're on life support right now for me, and it's going to get bad if this trial period ever ends. It's going to get bad for you. Okay, next one, Prime Video. And Prime Video is an interesting one to me because I think this is the platform that first comes to mind where, like, if you had asked me 2-3 years ago, Prime Video was like tied with Netflix or like right behind them. And now I feel like they've taken a significant step back. Like, I just don't feel like this platform is as vital to me as it has been. I don't find myself going there for content as often. Really, what was holding it for me was Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which I love, and Jack Ryan. And those are the two shows that I was like coming back for. And the Small Axe stuff was good. And they have stuff that comes in here and there. One Night in Miami was a Prime Video original. So I think it's still worth keeping around, but I'm just saying, like, if the budget got tight, and I mean, obviously I'm paying for Amazon Prime no matter what. And I think that's what seals it, is like 2-day delivery, all that stuff, which makes it a little bit unique. But if it was based on catalog alone, I would consider cutting it if it came down to it.
Yeah, I believe at this point in the game, Prime Video has become inconsistent. And I wonder if they'll bounce back once the pandemic has cooled down, because they were really killing the game. They had so many different original series coming out. Their original movies typically aren't that good unless, like, if Amazon Studios makes them. They've had 2 big wins, and there's some ones that trickle in. If they purchase it off of a different creator, it's hit or miss as well. So I think inconsistency is kind of Prime's status right now. So
I agree.
Always hopeful. There's a chance. Not going anywhere because everyone's tied to it with Amazon Prime. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I would, and Fleabag's over too. That's the other one that I just absolutely love. But I would consider killing someone for another season of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. That's like,
oh yeah,
I loved that show so much, and it got hit hard with the pandemic. Jack Ryan's in the same boat, so it's like those 2 casualties alone are like toughies to overcome for sure.
Yes.
Okay, and then there's Paramount Plus, which I already trashed their catalog. Their catalog is so bad, guys. It's so bad. Unless you're like a huge MTV person, which, like, safe space, no judgment. I know people watch Teen Mom, and I know people watch The Challenge. Like, it's all you. That's fine. But unless you're that person, it is not worth subscribing, because even for us, it was like Blue's Clues and Paw Patrol. That's huge, right? They don't even have every season of Paw Patrol. They're only through season 5, and right now Paw Patrol's on season 7.
Yeah.
It's trash. I'm like, dude, give me everything, or why would I pay for your service? And they're like, well, we have the Champions League soccer. And I'm like, darn you, Paramount Plus. So that's why I have it. But I was bored the other night, and I was like, we have a Paramount Plus subscription. Maybe I'll peruse their catalog. And it's just disgusting. It is so bad, dude.
Oh man, I just wish that you could see. I'm scrolling again through their catalog here.
It's so bad.
There's a movie called Cup of Love.
I actually watched that. It was incredible.
Oh, was it good?
I'm kidding.
Oh, forgive me. Yeah, there's just I could just spend 3 hours just reading the titles of this, and it would be the most listened to podcast in the entire history of technology.
It'd be really good radio. Really good radio. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's begin.
I love how after that you're like, yep, let's go. Yeah, I would not recommend Paramount Plus. No way. And they have a long way to go. But maybe if they get the Avatar universe on there, maybe that would be enough for me. Like, I mean, I'm already subscribing, so I don't know why I'm acting like. But I'm just saying I would not recommend it to anybody. I can't even reconcile with myself. I can't even look myself in the face in the mirror because I am so mad at myself for subscribing to it. But it is a necessary evil for soccer. All right. And that brings us to television subscription. Do you think you still need one, Kirk? Do you watch anything on YouTube TV?
I do. I don't know how much longer. YouTube TV is good because we have Nickelodeon in there. Yeah. I think we have Disney. So you get the latest episodes. You don't have to wait till the newest season has started for the last season to drop. Yes. So you have the direct access. You get access to all of the awards shows across different networks and you don't have to worry. True. I will say that AMC Plus is not on here. That's another one. AMC,
is that a thing?
It is a thing.
Oh,
it is a thing.
No.
AMC Plus. I am painfully just finishing out The Walking Dead. I just got to finish it. They're in their last season. So there's things like that you can just have access to.
For that. I have to say, I respect you for that.
Yeah, I told myself I would stop after Andrew Lincoln left the show, and then I changed my mind, and I just had to stick it out like ER, like all the other bad shows that needed a little boost and jump the shark. But YouTube TV, super happy about it. My sister recommended it to me, and if you are frustrated with your current streaming television platform, I say try it out. It's really good.
Yeah, YouTube TV, I've tried all of them. And I think they have the best interface. They have the best DVR, and they're priced pretty fairly. And it's interesting now. You've seen that there's been a settling in the market in terms of price points on these streaming services, where Sling has said we're the market bottom, we're the value play, and they have a great user interface, and theirs is a great product too. But they don't pay for any of the expensive channels that no regional sports, no nothing like that. YouTube is now out of the regional sports game, which has me grappling for what do I do. And then you've got the AT&T TV of the world, which their interface is garbage, but they have all the good channels. They have regional sports and stuff like that. So it's interesting. I would say, yeah, I agree with you based on user interface alone. And if you're not a huge sports person, but you need TV for some reason, YouTube TV is the one to go with. I think theirs is the best product, but we got to figure out something with regional sports. I know that we're not a sports podcast, and I've been talking a lot about sports, but seriously, there is no reason that someone like me, who would pay pretty much any amount of money to just watch sports, there is no reason I shouldn't be able to buy my local baseball team a la carte.
Right.
That's outrageous. I mean, that is outrageous. I would probably pay up to $50 a month for that just by itself. Seriously. And I can't get it. And I think that's exceptionally dumb, because then it becomes a thing of principle where I'm I'm not going to buy an $85 television subscription just so I can watch sports, because then I'm paying for all these other channels that I hate. I would rather just pay for the one thing. It's dumb.
Right. With all of this said, do we think that it'll swing back? Everyone will get sick of all the pluses and say, you know what? I'm going back to DirecTV. I'm going back to AT&T Spectrum.
I still think those things are on life support. I still think traditional cable is on life support, especially look at the degradation of network television these days, man. Oh. There used to be every season, whatever. What do they call that? Whenever it's the ratings are going around, what do they call that? Sweeps. Mm-hmm. You would get one good network TV show. You'd get a Lie to Me, or you'd get I don't know, something. You would get a Parks and Rec or something that would come out of the woodwork and be really good. You get nothing now. I mean, nothing. There's just, network TV is a barren wasteland. And beyond that, I just don't see much reason for keeping it. So I just feel like it's going to continue to degrade and degrade and degrade. Mm-hmm. And over time, people are going to be making that decision that you talked about, where they're man, having all of these plus a TV subscription is worse than what I had before. But I think what they will cut is the TV. So
that's true. I'll tell you what, I should look at how much all of this, these 7 out of 9 that I subscribe to, but I don't. I just want to live in ignorance because I don't want to know
you'd
the
rather be
exact costs.
blissfully unaware. 100%. That's why it's so funny. Like, I'll go $5 a month. That's nothing. And then I'll say that for every incremental $5 a month that I add. I'm like, oh, $5 a month. That's nothing. It's so stupid, but I live in peace.
Yes. Because you have access to everything. You are CBS All Access, Cam. Look at you.
Yeah, I basically am.
But
oh boy. Yeah. So that's our take on the streaming services. I just thought it was time for a refresher on that. I feel like the landscape has changed so much over the last year, especially people like, oh my gosh, everybody's at home. We got to get our services out, that it's time to reevaluate. So I'm glad that we had that conversation. That's what I'm trying to say.
Me too.
Let's pop it up one last time. All right. And now it is time for a review that we have been talking about for so long. Man, it's hard to even know where to begin with this. So for those of you who just like, let's say this is the first you're hearing about it, we'll just back it all the way up. Justice League came out in 2018. When that happened, it was a box office flop, number one, because it got tanked on Rotten Tomatoes. Basically, people were telling their friends, I'm not going to go see this movie, and the word of mouth got around that it wasn't any good, and so it didn't do well. There was all this terrible press going on about how, Zack Snyder, was being babysat by Warner, and they were all over it. And then he left because of a horrific tragedy that happened in his personal life, which is just awful. And they brought Joss Whedon in, and there was tons of bad press about that. And there were all these reshoots. And so the movie was terrible. And then after that, the fans were like, hey, since we know that this isn't the Zack Snyder movie, and we're like diehard Zack Snyder stans, we want the real thing. And so they started the hashtag release the Snyder Cut, which is one of the most successful hashtags in the history of social media, because they got together petitions. They mobilized an enormous fan base, and it got to the point where Warner could not ignore it anymore. And even though Zack didn't really want to work with Warner anymore, he wanted his vision to be fulfilled, because he felt like there was this movie out there that had his name on it that wasn't his. And so he felt like he owed it to the fans, because Zack Snyder is a good guy. Anybody you talk to in the industry will tell you that. And Warner felt like, hey, the noise is getting really, really loud. We need to answer it. And so they came to an agreement to release the Snyder Cut on HBO Max. Now, here's the thing. This is not just a cut of a movie, right, Kirk? I mean, this is what, an hour and a half to 2 hours extra of footage that we didn't see, that either had already existed or was shot whenever this was announced? Because there was a ton that I think was shot and added after the fact.
That's the question. That's the question right there. How much of this was the old raw footage that they decided not to put into the theatrical release versus all of the $70 million poured into the Snyder Cut? I think it's the second one. I think that this thing, that it was bare bones. Maybe it was in the original script and they stripped it before they filmed, but man, I wouldn't even call this a director's cut. It is a brand new film. It is a remake,
Yeah, it is. And I think you can almost tell as it goes, like, okay, this looks like something that existed before that just ended up on the cutting room floor, versus, whoa, they did a hard cut and this looks different. And this is like clearly new and almost augmented the original film. Instead of just feeling like it was missing from the original film, it actually was built to enhance the original film. So I think there's definitely a feeling of that. This thing comes in at a whopping 4-hour runtime. So if you're going to watch it, be close to a bathroom or something. It's intense. It's a marathon. But yeah, this is not a traditional cut. So whenever you're like, why would they review the Justice League? Didn't that movie come out 3 years ago? This is a very different movie. And even though it has a lot of the same elements, it is a very different movie. So we are going to dig into it. I'm synopsing. That was basically part of the synopsis right there. Yes. But the other part is that this is the Justice League, right? This takes place pretty much immediately following the events of Batman versus Superman. So it's a sequel in an extended series. It actually backs up right against Batman versus Superman. They show like some of the end of that film in the beginning of this one. And basically what we're left with is spoilers. If you guys are worried about spoilers, this is going to be a spoiler-full review. So just so you know that there's going to be spoilers flying. Superman is dead. Batman is trying to grapple with the fact that Superman is dead. The Earth is under attack now that Superman is gone. Basically, the shield is down, and Steppenwolf, who is this like extraterrestrial being, has come into the landscape knowing that Superman is gone, and he's like, I'm taking advantage of this. He's trying to collect these things called the Mother Boxes so that he can effectively wipe out the Earth. And Batman having... Oh, wow, you've got the Superman cape too?
I do.
Amazing.
I thought I'd just put it on to color up my screen.
That's awesome. I love it. So yeah, then Batman is left trying to pick up the pieces. He feels responsible for Superman's death based on the way that it went down, which is basically he did kill Superman. He shot a like Krypton tipped harpoon straight through him and the bad guy from Batman versus Superman. And so Batman's trying to build a team together to take on Steppenwolf, and they're trying to figure out like, how are we going to do this without Superman? Good enough?
Perfect. Nailed it.
Man, we got a lot to talk about in this movie, but let's start with just our superlatives, and we can get into it as we go. The first superlative we always do in a review, if you're new to the show, is the Oscar goes to, and that is for the best actor in the film. I'm kicking us off, and my best actor goes to Batfleck. Ben Affleck, Mr. Bruce Wayne, Batman himself. Yeah, there's the mask, Kirk. That's a good one.
I am Batfleck.
I think the largest casualty of the whole like Snyderverse being pulled down is probably the fact that we don't get a solo Ben Affleck Batman film. I really think that he's an excellent Bruce Wayne. I really think he did a good job in this movie. And I think this cast overall has some pretty weak links in it in terms of performances, and in terms of the writing for some of these characters is not great either. But I feel like Ben Affleck was the leader in the actual plot of the movie and also among this group of actors. He's really out there like galvanizing it. And there are scenes where they're all talking where he's the one who's the conduit for the energy. He's transferring it to each person. He's, picking up what the last person left them, taking what they gave him, and then giving it to the next person. He's a pro, and he's a pro's pro, and Ben Affleck has been doing this for a long time, and he's a great actor, and I thought he did a good job. So I have to give it to Batfleck. I hope this isn't the last we see him donning the cowl. I know that it's supposed to be, and he might appear in Flash or whatever, but it's too bad. It really is too bad.
Excellent. I have a choice for the Oscar goes to that's shocked myself.
Ooh.
Yes, because in the original cut, in the theatrical release, he was my least favorite, Mr. Ray Fisher. Yeah. However, in this one, they gave him such a big storyline. They actually just like rip your heart out storyline. And Mr. Ray Fisher is actually a good actor.
Yes.
You couldn't tell that
yes.
from the first film because his face is half covered by his cybernetic organism suit, and also because he just didn't have enough screen time, and all of the edits and cuts that he was in just were like broody with no meat to it. And man, did they fix it? Did Zack Snyder fix it with this one? That I actually was empathizing with Ray Fisher throughout the entire film. Man, I want to see. I know he's in hot water with basically all of Hollywood. He's been kind of outcasted a little bit, but he is, I feel like, on the right side of that strange battle that's going on, that strange power struggle. And I really hope to see him come into the light with some cool things, because I was glued. I was glued and cued in every time he was talking.
Dude, I have to totally agree, and I think that this, every time there's like an argument between executives and an actor, it's very he said, she said. Obviously, none of us are in on the inner circle of this. I always tend to side with the actor because studio executives just seem like not great people. But man, I think I get why he was not having it with Jeff Johns and John Berg and Joss Whedon. I think they gave him a bad edit in the first movie in a major way, and they cut a ton of his scenes because of whatever disagreements they were having. And man, he's my scene stealer, so that's why I'm leading into this. I thought he was excellent. I thought far and away he was the actor and character to benefit the most from the Snyder Cut. I mean, it's not even close. Like what they did with his plot line in this version was just in a different league. Like you said, just astronomically better. And he is the character actually, because he's just a straight up good actor, and because they wrote him a better story, he is the one who drives a lot of the emotion, and he actually ends up being the most well-developed character in the whole movie. With all these other big name superheroes, it's actually Cyborg who gets the best story, and I think it feels the best because his performance was so good. So yeah, I'm Team Ray Fisher. I didn't really know where to land on that argument, but I 100% feel he got a horrible edit in the first movie of this film, and whether or not they gave him new scenes or they just like brought back scenes that he had before, either way, I mean, he's a huge beneficiary in my opinion.
Definitely. And he hasn't even been, his filmography is relatively short. There's like 8 or 9 things on there. He's currently in some sort of upcoming television series. I don't know if the first episode is released or not, but he's really a diamond in the rough there. Totally unexpected. Agreed. So I was super happy to see that in this, and I hope to see him in the future in other stuff, regardless if it's DC or not.
For sure. And who'd you go with for your scene stealer, Kirk?
Mr. Ben Affleck.
Nice. We flip-flop there. We flip-flop. I like it.
Yeah. So part of the reason why I couldn't go with him for the front runner is because of this. This movie was a remake. And you have interspliced scenes of new footage and original footage, theatrical footage. Ben Affleck was able to re-characterize Bruce Wayne. He was able to look at the mistakes he made in his acting performance, because Ben Affleck is a good actor, whether you like him or not. And he was able to study himself and say, no, I'm not going to do that this time. The flaw in that is that the footage that was already used is also being interspliced with the Batman that you were and the Batman that you are now. I thought his adapted performance was fantastic. The vocalization was way stronger. You know, coming off of Christian, well, it was probably, 2 years removed from The Dark Knight when Batman vs Superman came out or started filming. Yeah. And when you see him in this theatrical release, you really hear him with that growl, with that grumble all the time, trying to be Christian Bale. Like, that worked for Christian Bale's performance, but no one said that Batman had to be down here or anything. So he just came out with a normal voice. It's most noticeable when they introduce Jason Momoa as Aquaman in that fantastic new intro scene. And that Ben Affleck, that was gold. And any scene that was newly filmed, I loved it. Scene stealer for me.
Yeah. Good call. I mean, good calls all around. I think it's a good thing to pick up on. And there were certain characters where you felt like you could feel that a little bit. And so that is what it is. That's the nature of the beast. And I think you can still look at it as a full piece of art and say, here's what it is, without trying to block out all of that other stuff. But it does appear, it rears its ugly head where you can be taken out of the film because you're like, whoa, that's new. That's a different characterization. That's a different tone. That's a different take on that character. But yeah, for the most part, I think they did okay with that. Let's move on to Showstopper. And this is the thing that most impressed us about the movie. My Showstopper is the final battle sequence between our Justice League, including Superman, and Steppenwolf, which the scene in the first movie was an absolute joke. It looked so bad. It was like this weird red color in the background the whole time. It looked totally unpolished. It looked totally fake. Which, I mean, stylistically, Zack Snyder movies never look ultra real. He creates this like surrealist thing, which is an artistic approach that I don't always agree with, because I just fundamentally believe that film should be immersive. That's its goal, is to get you sucked in, to believe you're there. And I've never really felt that way while watching a Zack Snyder film. I get that we're talking aliens and superheroes. Like I'm fully aware of that. None of this stuff is real. Got it. But I still feel like it should try to take me there and believe. It should make me believe. That's what film, I think, is for. But this battle sequence did a much better job of that. The backgrounds, the textures looked better. It didn't feel rushed. the battle sequence in the Justice League 2018 felt super rushed, and it never felt like the stakes were super high, because it's just like, okay, well, I guess we have to have a final battle. This is a superhero movie after all. And this one felt like they took the time with it. They had a plot within the battle sequence, you know, with Ezra Miller's Flash, even though I thought he did a bad job during his big scene of like, yes, Dad, I want you to be proud of me. I was one of the best. Like, I thought that was just god awful, personally. Yes. but I don't want that to distract from the fact that the actual overall sequence was really good, and the movie, it really rounded out the movie, and it made it feel like, okay, we started with these mother boxes, which they did a way better job of explaining at the beginning with Diana's little monologue, and now we're here, and this is the culmination, and there's Darkseid and stuff. Like, it just all worked way better this time, and I was very thankful for that.
It was. It really, really, truly was. Cannot stress enough that what's his name? Ezra Miller should not be the Flash.
It's bad. And I think part of it is just, it feels so off tone from the rest of the movie. Like, I get that they're trying to add some levity, but it's really poorly executed. Yeah,
like there are plenty of roles out there for Ezra Miller. The Flash is not the one. And if you notice, you know, they took out, there's so many wisecracks in the first theatrical release. Yes. Like Ezra Miller, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say him, but you know, it was written in the script, the Flash will not shut up in the original. Yes. And they really stripped that down, which makes his performance relatable, bearable, except that part is like, dude, you missed your mark. Like, what happened?
Pretty bad. It's pretty bad. It's not well written. It's not well executed. I just think, I was like, man, I know that they have to like do this scene for some reason, but how do you watch that back and go, yep, that's the take. That's what we want. We want the words to come out like that. We want it to sound like, I don't know. It boggles my mind. I don't understand.
Beautiful. So I don't have much to say. My showstopper was the stinking Jason Momoa introduction. I just thought it was so perfect. I've said it 3 times now. You know, before it was all of a sudden Ben Affleck has come down from this cliff and he's found this tiny house, which happens to be like a tavern. And he goes in and there's this man sitting at this throne of power, just speaking to him. And he's like asking all these questions about, you know, trying to lead them on to figure out who's in the crowd. That is Aquaman. Terrible. So bad. Yes. And in this one, they gave it depth, they gave it meaning, they gave it a twist. Like, these guys like didn't speak English, you know, but they really did. I loved it. I loved that the gimmick that they were playing in order to protect Jason Momoa as Aquaman. It was just so well played. It was such a better introduction. This film did such a better job at introducing these characters, which is why it had to be 4 hours long. Yes. Because not all of them have had their origin story at this point, which is why Marvel was so successful all the way leading up to the Avengers. They didn't have to give you the backstory because you knew it and it was ingrained. So hopefully with the Snyder Cut, they're able to jump off and be successful. So we'll see.
Yeah, all of that. It's spot on. And it segues perfectly into my director's shoes, or the thing that I would change about this movie. The thing that I would change about this movie would have happened long before this movie was ever even a twinkle in its mother's eyes, or in this case, its father's eyes, Zack Snyder, because you're exactly right. You know, you sit here and go, why is this cut 4 hours long? Well, it has to be. We don't know any of these characters. We have no emotional tie to these characters. Even this Bruce Wayne, we've only seen in Batman versus Superman, which they did not do very much character development. I think they must have been under the impression of like, well, people know Batman, it's Batman. Like, no, you still have to develop. Every Bruce Wayne is different. Every interpretation of that character is different. We still need to get to know that character. Right. And outside of Diana Prince, you know, the Wonder Woman, we didn't really have that. And so that first movie just felt so hasty, you know, like everything was being thrown together real quickly. It's like, hey, there's the Aquaman and there's the Flash. And I'm like, whoa. How did we get here? Why are we even doing this? What's happening? It just felt way too fast. And so, I mean, literally the first 2.5 hours of this movie is just team assembly and character building. That's it. That's the whole thing. And I'm like, man, that is extraordinarily painful to watch, but I actually get it. I know why he went that route. So it's a really ambitious movie concept to try to make a Justice League movie when we've been introduced to Superman in Man of Steel. we've been kind of introduced to Batman and Batman versus Superman, and that's really it. Like that's all we get. And now you're introducing, Cyborg and the Flash and Aquaman and Martian Manhunter, out of left field. It's just like,
and the Guardians of the Green Lanterns,
the Green Lantern Corps. Yeah, they kind of tossed that one in there. So it's just a ton. And then they, he threw Darkseid into this, but I'm just saying, like, chill. That's a really ambitious approach, and it was almost never. I can't think of a way that it could have been successful. Personally,
no, not a chance.
Even with the 4-hour cut, no, still no. So just personally,
no, you're right. This thing is 4 hours long, so I'm assuming that everything in that 4 hours is concise, right? Here's where I'm coming in at my director's shoes. No, not everything was concise. There were these strange, like, lingering shots that had no purpose several times throughout. Whether they were after Amy Adams, and we haven't even touched on Amy Adams as Lois Lane here. But there are moments when she's like bringing coffee to this random policeman outside of the memorial for Superman. And there's just like, it takes her a really long time to walk up to the memorial and a really long time to walk away from the memorial. I think the only scene that they shortened in this that was longer in the original was Diane Lane looking at Clark's gravestone at the beginning. It was really long in Justice League, the theatrical release, but really short in this one. Specifically, as they're about to gear up for their final battle, we had the bay of the helicopter closing, and you see Batman just slowly waltzing back to the ladder and then slowly climbing. Like that shot was probably like 35 seconds, and it should have been a 4-second clip. Like, it made no sense. So in a movie that is supposed to be concise, or if you have a 4-hour movie, the shots should be concise, or you better have a really good reason for why you're lingering and have like an extra Easter egg. So I didn't understand that at all. And it made me mad because, it probably could have been 3 hours and 30 minutes. Let's be honest.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, how much of this movie was in slow-mo?
Oh,
stupid stuff. I'm not even talking about the fight sequences. Let's say you did 100% of every fight sequence in slow-mo, which it's pretty darn close to that. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
They're like doing people's hair in the wind, slow-mo, just standing there. I'm like, what? Like, I get that this is a style thing, but like, what is this style? Who wants this? I can't make sense of it. I think probably I'm trying not to be hyperbolous here, but I'm just saying, like, I think 50% of the frames were in slow-mo. Honestly,
yeah,
it's an enormous amount. And honestly, last night when I was watching it, it put me to sleep because it was so drawn out and there's so much time. There's this one scene. This was the scene that actually put me to sleep, where in the original movie they do this thing where it's just like, we need to light the fire to let Diana know that, like, it's going down for real skis. We need to shoot this arrow and it's going to light this thing on fire and it's going to tell Diana that it's going down. They spend like 10 minutes like prepping the arrow. Diana's mom like talks to the arrow and is like, please find Diana. I'm like, bro, what are we doing? How is this in this movie? It was so bad. So I agree. I think here's the thing about film as a medium. It is concise. It's not television. Television is long form. Movies aren't meant to be. It's meant to be tell the best story you can in 2 to 3 hours. And so if you're going to do it in 4 hours, like you said, that's already kind of like stretching the bounds of the medium. And then to do it and to waste all this time with filler is like a really odd choice. I don't know. I don't fully understand. All of that being said, let's move into our overall thoughts and scores. Where to begin? I feel like, was this movie, just face value, was this movie better than the original? Certainly it was. I personally feel that it was. I feel like everything, well, I shouldn't say everything, almost everything that they added enhanced this movie. I really do believe that. I think the real problem with this Justice League movie happened, like I said, way before the movie even was created. It's the poor character development in the movies leading up to this. This is a sequel, so it has to answer for its predecessors, and it just doesn't. It can't work. It just can't work. It's flawed at inception. you have these characters who are poorly developed. You have to try to develop them in a really short period of time. Some characters, Cyborg, for instance, in this edition, they did a really good job of that. Other characters, Aquaman, the Flash, not so well. They did not benefit as much from a recut. So I just think it was never going to be good. It was doomed. It was doomed from the start. And, then you take the fact that it has that same DC look and feel, which is just extraordinarily artificial. In fact, if they are going to go why does somebody riding a horse have to be CGI? Can somebody tell me that? There are people who can ride horses,
Yes.
you can teach actors to ride horses, in fact. So I don't understand why we have to have a scene of a bunch of Amazon women riding horses and it's all CGI. That's outrageous.
Yes.
So those sort of stylistic choices and the just sheer never using practical effects that happens in DC movies are still present, and I still hate it. But I will say that from a plot perspective, it was quite a bit better, though still not spectacular. From a character development perspective, it was much noticeably better. But this movie is still lacking in so many areas that it's a 5.2 out of 10 kernels for me.
All right. I have to tell you, I love that you fell asleep during that scene where she's talking to the fine Diana, because I fell asleep in that exact same scene. I kid you not.
No way. That is awesome.
Not.
That's hilarious.
So I started watching Thursday night because I knew that I had a lot of stuff to do. So I watched it Thursday, Friday, and today. So today is the day that we're recording, Saturday. I woke up on Friday and I was rewinding. I was like, oh yeah, this part was really kind of boring. So I love that happened to both of us. I'm dying. I'm tired.
That's incredible. I love it.
I'm getting tired of thinking of it because it was just so drawn out.
It was so
drawn out. Oh my goodness. But I think that, if you're going to learn, a lot of things they fixed, but if you're going to really study your mistakes, fix more than 35 to 40% of them, because there were still big issues with this movie. There were still giant plot holes, and there was all this effort put into this when half of these actors are not going to continue with the DCEU.
Oh no.
That alone is well,
and there's been so much Zack Snyder press this week about well, there was going to be 2 more movies, and this is what was going to happen in those movies. And it's just oh, this is painful.
So it's and they put all this effort into the final beat of this movie to say, this is what it could have been, but now it's not going to be. So is that his audition to be the EP over the DC, to kick Nolan out? I don't know what his move is with that, what it is, but no one's going to return to this universe that isn't needing it. Ezra Miller is going to return, Jason Momoa is going to return, Gal Gadot is going to return, but everyone else, your biggest hitters, Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill.
Oh, you froze. But yeah, I agree. I'll fill in. I'll fill in while you're frozen for a bit there. But yes, your biggest hitters, Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, and then Ray Fisher also, who was gonna appear in The Flash. He's gone too. They've effectively shown him the door. They could have handled that situation way better. Kirk, you were frozen. Sorry.
I'm back. I know I said some extremely beautiful and philosophical things that were kind of an out of body.
I started to fill in for you. You were talking about how Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, Ray Fisher are gone. Is basically where we left you.
Beautiful. I'll leave it at that in case I get frozen again. And you guys can, just read my mind. You know what I was trying to say. And if not, you'll never know how beautiful the speech was that I just prepared for you. I'm going to give this bad boy a 4.9 out of 10 kernels.
Ooh, we were pretty close. We were of one mind on this one, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. I think we should probably, so next we're going to move into, that's the end of our review. You should check out the Snyder Cut. Okay. Check it out. If you have 4 hours, if you don't, I'm so sorry. It's a really long time, and you will fall asleep. That's during that scene where she talks to the Arrow, like we both did. Cause apparently that's just I don't know. It's like Pavlovian or something, that people just fall asleep there, but that's the Snyder Cut. You can see it on HBO Max. I don't believe you can see it in theaters. I think it's only on HBO Max. So that's the place to check it out. we're moving into our segment, which is called Schoolyard Pick, where we will do a Schoolyard pick of the DCEU films, and Kirk is actually going to be the one to kick us off. But I think it's worth noting a really interesting point that you brought up, which is like, okay, this movie sort of feels like the final culmination of the DC extended universe as we know it, because this was Zack Snyder's actual attempt at a Justice League movie. We know that Ben Affleck is pretty much gone. His solo Batman movie is not happening, and it sounds like so there's been talk of him appearing in The Flash. I have no idea if that's happening. They got in a big fight with Ray Fisher, which was a big no-no on Warner Brothers' fault. They should have just admitted defeat and said, no, we want to keep you because he's a good actor and a good cyborg. So now he's not appearing in The Flash, and there's not going to be any solo cyborg movie. It sounds like Henry Cavill's gone as well. They're mulling over new superhero opportunities there. So this is really like, I don't know where they go from here. Like you said, I mean, if they even decided like, okay, people loved the Snyder cut, let's bring Zack back and we can restore the Snyderverse, as everybody is saying online. I don't even know where he would start with that, because it's pretty much in shambles at this point. So we're going to do our ranking, but it's hard to know where things go from here, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Definitely. Is it me first, you said?
Yeah, Schoolyard Pick. Kick it off. DC Extended Universe. Okay, hold on. Sorry. I lied. Quick points of inquiry. The DC Extended Universe includes every DC feature-length film after the Chris Nolan Dark Knight trilogy and excludes Joaquin Phoenix Joker. It's not a tie-in. Okay? Everything else is on the table. And Justice League and Zack Snyder's Justice League are two separate films for all intents and purposes. So keep that in mind as well.
Okay. My first one.
Okay, I'm sorry. Christopher Reeve's Superman is also
Wait a second. Hold on. I don't know the theme song by heart for Man of Steel, but
it's really freaking good, dude. That's the other thing. Really good. That's the other casualty is Hans Zimmer wrote some straight bangers throughout all of the DCEU with the Wonder Woman theme, which is I talk about all the time. But also that Superman theme from Man of Steel is one of the best pieces of movie score ever.
Yes.
And so rest in peace, Hans Zimmer Superman score as well.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I've trashed Zack Snyder 100 different times on our podcast episodes, but he is the director of Man of Steel. And for some reason, he got it mostly right. I mean, every movie has its flaws. There are very few that don't, but I really, really enjoy Man of Steel. I really think that is the tone that they should have taken everything on. And it's kind of a return to form on that for the Snyder cut. I will say that, but ultimately it of course the Snyder cut misses the mark, but Man of Steel, I don't know. That one's not going away from me. I love that movie.
Yeah, I think it's an upper tier one. It probably would have been one of my first picks as well. But for my first pick, I am going to go with Shazam.
Dang it.
Zachary Levi. I just think that movie is the least DC movie because it just had a ton of it was just very light on its feet, and I thought Zachary Levi was a perfect casting for his role. I think the only real issue with that movie is that the villains, the 7 Deadly Sins, awful villains. They look terrible, and it just didn't deliver a good payoff. But I thought the movie was good, and no, not because it's closer to the Marvel formula, even though it is slightly closer to the Marvel formula. But I just generally think they got the casting right. I thought it was pretty well written for the most part. And it didn't fall into a lot of the same pitfalls that the DC films fall into, which I feel like is that they try to be super dramatic, but because you don't have a deep connection to the characters, because they do such a bad job with character development, they end up feeling melodramatic and empty and hollow. So it's like they try to go for drama, which I think is where they should go, but because they do a bad job with character dev, it's feels so over the top soap opera-y. So Shazam did not fall into that pitfall, and that's why it's my first pick.
Well, I hate you because that was going to be my second pick. The rest of this list is just awful. It's really those two are the leaders. So if I have to go with the next least terrible choice, I have to pick the original Wonder Woman with Gal Gadot, and I'll never say her name correctly because I always forget.
I think Gal Gadot.
Gal.
Yeah.
Gal. Gonna go with Gal. Gonna go with
Gal.
Wonder Woman on this one. Yeah. That movie, people thought that it was a really strong win. It was all right. It was just all right for me, but way better than everything else on this list. So that's my second pick.
Yes, which was going to be my second pick. You've left me in a really difficult spot because I liked Wonder Woman. I was not as high on it as some others who think it's like incredible. I thought it was really good. I didn't think it was amazing. But man, there are some toughies left on the board now.
Yes.
I am going to go with... I think I'm actually going to go with Zack Snyder Justice League.
Here. Wow.
I think I thought, like I said, like as an improvement over the original Justice League, box checked. I think they did some good things. I think they're, it's flawed by design, but overall he did what I expected Zack Snyder to do with the material that he had. So
I got you. I'm going to pick, my next one is going to be pretty shocking here. I'm going to go around the headphones, see if I have to take them off. Putting my Batman cowl back on in case you're listening only. I got to go with Batman versus Superman.
Nice.
As my next pick. Now, the reason I picked this one is because not that it's superior to the other ones on this list. It slightly is. But because it's entertaining throughout, good and bad. This is the movie that gave us Martha.
Oh.
Wait, your mom's name is Martha? Yes, it is. Mine too.
See, that's what I'm talking about. That's the melodramatic stuff I'm talking about. It's profound, but it's not.
That was the whole reason that Batman didn't crush Superman's skull when he had like a kryptonite stake in his belly. That's the only reason why. And then he's like, "Oh, what was I doing? What would my mom think?" Like, it's so dumb. It's so dumb. But because of that, there's that, and there's moments where all of a sudden, at some point, I remember going to the bathroom and coming back, and all of a sudden, Lois Lane was like drowning in a glass box. I'm like, "How'd that happen? How'd she get in this magician's tank?"
It turned into The Prestige for a second.
Yes,
you're like, "Oh, Chris Nolan, what?"
Exactly. There's things like that are with that movie that make it at least enjoyable. Things that are so bad and so off topic, off beat that just make it good in a weird way. So Batman vs Superman.
I love it. It's a good pick. And actually, I was rewatching that movie before the Snyder cut. I like crash coursed a bunch of DCEU films over the last week and a half, and that opening scene where it's like the end of Man of Steel and Bruce Wayne is driving through the streets of Metropolis in his like SUV is pretty sick.
It is, yeah.
It's honestly like it gets you. It's really good.
Yeah, I remember that one clearly because I was so excited and led down the wrong path because the rest of that movie is not that good.
Yeah, then it goes downhill from there. Okay, my next pick. Man, you're stealing all my picks right before me. It's so bad. I'm going to go... Oh, this is tough. I'm going to go Wonder Woman 1984. I think that movie is sort of in a similar boat where like a lot of it was fairly entertaining for the most part. And I thought there were some good action sequences. I thought that... they kind of massacred the storyline with Pedro Pascal's character, even though he worked overtime trying to get that to work. And I think the whole Chris Pine thing is really, really strange in that movie. And like a really weird gimmicky thing to try to, in an attempt to give that movie some level of emotion. But it mostly misses the mark, but I think it is still a tier above the very bottom echelon of DCEU films, which we're about to dive into.
Oh man, this is tough. There's only like 4 movies left. I gotta go Suicide Squad.
Oh wow.
There is a movie on here that I will be shocked if it even makes our list because I think we have 12 films and we're doing 5 each. So Suicide Squad is above the other remaining DC films. Just out of pure curiosity as to how they would make that film work, which didn't. So that's my pick.
That is a surprise pick. That's a surprise pick. I thought that one was going to be dead last. I was like, I pretty much told myself going into this, I'm not picking it. And if I'm left with it as my last pick, I'm just going to abstain. I'm just going to be like, nope, not doing it. So that's a surprise pick. I think my second to last pick, so this is my fourth pick. Now this becomes a little bit tricky. I think I got to go Bop, Birds of Prey. I think I got to go Birds of Prey. Is that the one you were talking about being the one you're surprised makes any list?
No.
Okay, good. Because Birds of Prey should have been good. And it's a shame because I think Margot Robbie does a really good job as Harley Quinn. But where that movie really misses the mark is with the supporting cast and these like the Birds of Prey that they add in, like Black Canary and all those other supporting characters just are not good, and just some really poor acting in that movie and some really poor writing. And I think that the first part of that movie starts out decently strong because it's like just Margot Robbie, and they take like an almost Deadpool-esque tone with it in terms of her like breaking the fourth wall and being, over the top crazy. Like it does okay, and then it gets weird and bad. So that's why it is where it is on my list.
So I just did a recount. I think there are only 10 that are
there
eligible.
Are only 10, so we're going to pick all of them.
Perfect. I'm going to let you pick the final worst one. So with that, I am going to pick the theatrical release of the Justice League.
Okay.
That movie, hard to watch, still is, as I watched the first, I think 30 minutes back before I started Snyder Cut. And then I abandoned it. Then I scrolled through to be like, was that scene in the original? I just kind of had to like check it for a little bit. But bottom of my list, number 5, because I didn't want to pick
Aquaman.
Aquaman.
This one is interesting to me because some people like genuinely like this movie, and I'm not bashing those people at all. I just have questions for it because I think for me, where it sort of like begins and ends is just like, I don't like the Aquaman character that they've created in this universe. I just don't. I don't like it. I don't like the aesthetic of like Atlantis and stuff in the movies either, which makes it really hard to watch. Like when they're underwater, I just don't think it looks good. I think it looks really bizarre. And the like banter and back and forth between Amber Heard and Jason Momoa feels awkward most of the movie. It's just it's going to be a no for me, dog. I don't like that movie. I didn't really find it super entertaining, and I was kind of left being like, why did we do this movie? Was it totally necessary? Could we have waited a little longer? Could we have like developed some other stuff through group movies first and then tried to make this? Because it wasn't believable at all. Like his like dislike of the Atlanteans and having to come to terms with like his rise to the throne and all that stuff. None of it worked for me.
Yeah, I've still to this day, I tried to rewatch that 3 different times, and I couldn't do it. I fell asleep every time. It was just so bad. And I am a big fan of Patrick Wilson, who plays, I believe, the evil brother in that. I don't know if he is or not because I haven't finished the film, but I think that he's a good actor, good choice for a villain. But man, just didn't work. I'm with you.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think if you look at like fan scores and like critic scores on that one, it's like it comes in a little bit higher than a lot of the DCEU stuff. But again, I just don't really quite get that. I guess if you don't buy it, you don't buy it. I mean, it's as simple as that. And they just kind of lost me from beat one. So that's why I'm out on that one. But this is such an interesting list to debate, and I hope that people who are listening are thinking about their lists right now. I mean, that's sort of the whole reason we do this, and I would love to see some lists. So if you guys have seen these movies and you want to share your list with us on social media, feel free to do it. You know how to reach us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, slide into our DMs, whatever you need to do. I think it's a really interesting conversation, and maybe we'll even strike up the conversation on social media later this week so that we can have it in a more open space. But I just think I'm always curious to hear where people land on these because it is such a hard thing to mark. Like some people really love Batman versus Superman. Some people think it's the worst thing ever. I mean, It's really interpretive. So I'm always interested to hear it. But it was a fun exercise to do. And it feels like we've just turned the page on the first big movie milestone of 2021 with Zack Snyder Justice League now in the rear view. We've got a lot of other exciting things coming up. We've got Godzilla versus Kong coming up. We're heading into Oscars. We're heading into the summer. There's, the pandemic is improving. People are getting vaccinated. I don't want to get too optimistic, but it feels like we might have normal-ish life soon. So I'm really excited about what's to come. What's coming from us in short order is right after this, Kirk and I are going to stay in the studio and record our first episode of Spilled Popcorn covering The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That will drop as a podcast for the first time ever this Monday. So if you're listening to the Friday podcast, it's already out. But if you're watching on the stream, it's coming out on Monday. And so we're going to do that. And we've got lots of other exciting things coming up. 3 weekly episodes. You guys can connect with us on Discord. You can follow us on Twitch. You can follow us. You can subscribe to us on YouTube. Anybody who's watched on the stream, we very much appreciate it. And for those of you listening, of course, we appreciate you more than you know. But we want to give a special thanks to our executive producer, Ryan Spriggs, who is actually just over at my house helping us out with some sound quality issues with the stream like minutes before we hopped on here. So very, very much appreciate Ryan's help. And also our original music is by the wonderful group Rhetoric. You can check those guys out on Apple Music, Spotify, and Amazon Music, and we will play their music on the way out here. But we will talk to you guys very, very soon.
Bye.